Tamus, good to have you again.
Thank you, Cathy. Good to see you again.
Could you please give us some updates from Israel after over the 100 hours of attack, right?
Well, since Saturday morning, Israel time, this is the fifth day of operations. And both Israel and the United States have kept bombing Iranian targets, whether they're military or political or industrial. It seems like the Iranians may be running out of missiles and rockets.
Really? How do you tell?
Well, I cannot say for sure, but I can say that Saturday there are many more missiles sent towards Israel than the days after. And it seems like they're kind of rationing their missiles. And also, for some reason that we can guess, they expanded their targets, not just to Israel and American targets, but also to the Gulf states and Turkey and Cyprus. So for whatever limited number of missiles they have, they are sending them to more places.
So can you tell us estimate? For example, just compare the fifth day towards the the first day when they send more bombs, right? You probably have more bomb alerts. Just roughly, what's the percentage right now?
Well, I can't say for sure, but I can say that on Saturday, every half hour, I had to come to this safe room because there was a siren. And in recent days, it hasn't been that much. There were a few times a day, maybe 5, 6, 7 times a day, but not as extreme as it was on Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a big change because from every 30 minutes to 5, 6 times a day, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
Another thing that's important to say that when you talk about missiles, there are a few things that the Israelis and Americans are targeting. One is the places where they manufacture those missiles, but because it seems that in the summer, Israel destroyed many of the Iranian ballistic missiles, but until the end of February, beginning of March, it seems like the Iranians have managed to ramp up their production and reach more or less the same number of missiles, which is several thousand that they had in the summer. So one thing that Israel and America had to do was go after the military industries that manufacture them at the different sites where they're manufactured. The other thing is you want to go after the missile launchers. Some are mobile, some are not mobile, because no matter how many missiles you have, the constraint is the missile launchers, right? If you have 1,000 missiles and you have 10 missile launchers, you can shoot 10 missiles at the same time. But if you have only 2, it doesn't matter how many missiles you have. So Israel and the US divided Iran into sectors. Some Israel is responsible for, some the US is, and they're basically constantly hunting for missile launchers. So many of the Iranian crews, it seems, so I haven't heard directly from Iranians, but it's been reported that many of the Iranian soldiers who are responsible for these missile launchers are kind of afraid when they get the order to launch the missiles, because when they have to launch a missile, they have to get into the missile launcher and expose themselves to Israeli or American attacks, and they may die. So because both countries' air forces have been pretty effective at hunting those missile launchers. So there are still missiles going everywhere. Actually, today I had to go out to run some errand, and I went out and there was a siren, I had to come back. And then I went out, there was a siren, I had to come back. And only the third time I managed to complete the errand. So they're still sending missiles, but apparently they're targeting many more places, and they have fewer missiles and definitely fewer missile launchers.
Okay. The Trump administration is saying it's only got started. There will be more hits. So from your end, what are the weapons maybe US and Israel have not get out and hit Iran?
I think first it's important to say that both US and Iran have said that they have not used their worst weapons, and Iran has threatened to use weapons that have not been introduced yet. and the US has done the same. And people usually do that at war. And it remains to be seen whose claims are true and who is just trying to cover up. We don't know that. But when it comes to the US, we don't necessarily know all their secret weapons, and I'm not sure they want to expose all their secret weapons, because once you expose some secret weapon that you have in one theater, all your enemies around the world know about it and what it's capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
However, it seems like so far the United States was concentrating on air superiority, which means that to destroy all the air defenses so that American and Israeli planes can fly over Iran and go after all the ballistic missiles and their industries, and also go after government compounds. However, I'm sure there are many more targets, many more industries. They've gone after the Navy, for example. So I think they can, whether it's with new weapons or not new weapons, I think there are many more targets in Iran, whether more of the same, like more government buildings or more military installations, but they can also go after newer targets, which could be more industries or more sensitive targets. The only consideration I would say that probably is in the back of the minds of the American military planners is what comes after, right? If you destroy certain infrastructure in Iran, and then there is a new regime that's in alliance with the US, then they don't have that infrastructure because you destroyed it. And it makes it harder for that regime to gain the people's trust because they don't have the resources. So I think that would be one guiding principle for American planners, that they want to hit more to bring the regime to its knees, but maybe they don't want to destroy too much of the infrastructure that can serve a new regime. I don't think the Iranian regime has that consideration. And if they feel like their back is at the wall and they have nowhere to go, they may not discriminate in terms of which targets they hit.
Yeah, so the United States has stated that there are three main goals. How do you think, from Israel's perspective, is the same?
Well, I would say there is a convergence of interests, but it doesn't mean the United States and Israel see this things the same way. And it's kind of obvious because Israel is in the neighborhood and the United States is not. Israel is less concerned with China and Russia, and the United States is. So, but usually allies, they don't have to agree on anything. There just needs to be enough convergence of interests to work together. So I think for the United States, as they stated, they don't want the regime to have nuclear power, nuclear bombs. They don't want them to have the ballistic missiles or the Navy where they can threaten their neighbors, or the shipment of oil and gas and all of those things. And they want, I guess, regime behavior change. They care less about who exactly is in power as long as they are more amenable to American needs and interests. Of course, I think American administration wants to have a new regime that's open, free, democratic, and supportive of the United States. But I don't think it's as important to them. I do think that the American administration thinks that a regime, as they call it, led by lunatic clerics who have end of days ideology that they don't listen to reason, they don't want that, definitely. In terms of Israel, Israel really does want regime change. However, since they're working together and America is the senior partner, I think as long as whoever comes next is not really bad, Israel will acquiesce to whatever America wants. At the same time, I think Israel has proven itself to be a very capable partner, and that's quoting Secretary of War Hegseth, and a very good partner. And I think that gives Israel a lot of credit, and Israel may want to use some of that credit when it comes to discussions of what happens next in Iran and what the US should agree to in terms of a new regime. So I think there is room for negotiation, and I think there is a lot of goodwill on both sides, because so far the results have been good from both Israel and American perspectives, and the cooperation has been very good. So when there is goodwill, I think they will manage to find the middle road. If things go bad, then the blame game starts. But at the moment, we are not there yet. So I think the interests are not the same, but there is enough convergence at the moment that even if the rhetoric is different, they are able to work together. I will say that in a press conference with German Chancellor, Trump was asked, what's the worst option? And he said, the worst option is that we get somebody, as the new people who take over Iran will discover in 5 years they're as bad as the old ones. So I think he's aware of that option. I'm sure he doesn't want it, and he'll do whatever he can to prevent it. But in the bigger scheme of things, I think the US is focused on the whole world and the threat of the CCP. So they just want this area to quiet down.
That's probably explained why Trump actually expressed kind of maybe like sadness. He said the first batch of the leaders are gone in Iran. The second batch also gone. Now the third batch comes up, but we don't know them because Israel is just hit them so hard, right? From the first batch to the second batch and possibly the third batch. So this kind of difference in the goals. So from your perspective, would not sabotage this cooperation between US and Israel?
Yeah, I think at the current time, there is a lot more to support cooperation and convergence than to destabilize the cooperation. I think the differences at the moment are not that big. But what happens next, we'll have to wait and see. And the United States, even before Trump and definitely during Trump's reign, it can be very heavy-handed with partners who are not cooperating. And I'm sure Prime Minister Netanyahu knows that.
Mm-hmm. Also on March 2nd, Hezbollah launched its first attacks on Israel since the 2024 ceasefire. So what do you think is the impact of Hezbollah joining the fight?
Well, first of all, I will say it's kind of strange that Hezbollah decided to do that. Of course, it was hit very, very hard by Israel in 2024. But something else internally in Lebanon happened, which is the opinion turned against Hezbollah. The popular opinion, the different political parties turned against Hezbollah. So Hezbollah is still very strong in Lebanon, militarily and otherwise. But now that Hezbollah attacked Israel, many senior people in Lebanon denounced it and said it's illegal for them to do it. So I'm not sure they can actually enforce anything on Hezbollah with the Lebanese military. But it seems like by doing that, Hezbollah has created a bigger fracture in Lebanon politics and power play, because now they've put a big chunk of Lebanon against them, which was already against them after September 2024. In terms of what happens in Israel specifically, we had today an instance where Tel Aviv was threatened by incoming missiles both from Iran and Hezbollah. Israel has started bombing Lebanon and told Lebanese citizens in southern Lebanon to evacuate, and has actually had some ground forces invade southern Lebanon to secure military positions. So I'm not sure the Lebanese are very happy about that. But if what we know is true about Hezbollah being very hard hit a year and a half ago, I'm not sure how much they will want to continue this fight. Maybe Iranian leadership hopes that it will make Israeli citizens feel more threatened and put pressure on the Israeli government to ease up on the fight against Iran. I don't see that happening. So it seems like another miscalculation by Iranian leadership, but it's too early to tell. Maybe they have some surprise that we have not seen yet that would explain why Hezbollah began attacking Israel.
Last time you mentioned Iran being a proxy of communist China. So how do you think the development in this fight means for CCP?
I think it's a very good question, and maybe we can look at two parallel levels, because Iran has developed its own proxies, right? Like Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis, but it also became a proxy of the CCP, just like Venezuela and other countries. So it's like a two-tiered system of proxies. So let's look at Hezbollah, for example. When Hezbollah was hit very hard by Israel in 2024, in September 2024, it hurt Iran. It hurt Iran because one of its livers was gone, and then it started attacking Israel directly, which gave Israel the chance to attack Iran directly. Also, when Hezbollah was gone, the support for the Assad regime in Syria dried up, and he fell, and he was another proxy of Iran. So it really hurt Iran's power in the Middle East. If we applied that same logic one tier up, right, then if and when the Iranian regime falls and a new regime that is not tied to the CCP rises, the same would happen. China now buys very cheap oil from Iran because of the sanctions. It will have to pay market price for 15% more of its oil, which 15% seems a little, but it's a huge amount. And also, Iran destabilized the region for the past decades, which meant it drew a lot of American power, just like now, but and that power could not concentrate on China. But if that regime falls and the Middle East becomes stable, then it will be one less distraction for America, and it will be able to focus more on China. And also, China's influence in the region will decrease. And since China has been Iran's ally, even though a very bad ally, because it hasn't helped them at all, and I'm sure all of China's so-called allies and proxies around the world have seen the weak support or the no support that Iran was given, and now they're kind of reconsidering. I'm not sure the Gulf states will be very happy to engage with China as they did in the past. And that means that China loses a lot of influence in the Middle East. And even Israel, which has, to my opinion, made a very bad miscalculation over the years to have very strong relations with the CCP. After October 7th, 2023, that changed dramatically. So basically, it seems like the CCP, if this change happens, will not only lose cheap oil and a distraction, it will also lose its influence in this area. So I think this has been this old Soviet doctrine of creating proxies to distract your enemy. And it seems like both tiers are now falling, both the Iranian proxies and now the CCP's proxies, whether they're Venezuela or Iran, and we'll see who comes next.
Yeah, if we expand the topic a little bit, is that President Trump is scheduled to visit China at the end of month or beginning of the April. So how do you think this gonna change, or if the schedule is gonna remain?
It's really hard to tell. It seems like when I don't know the hidden intentions of President Trump and his cabinet members, but if you look at the actions then of this administration vis-a-vis China, they've been one step forward, one step back, kind of putting very hard tariffs or saying hard words and then stepping back and says, we made a great deal. Xi Jinping is a great leader. And again, hard and soft. And since we don't know what's in their hearts of the American leadership, we can put different narratives to explain that. One narrative would be that American leadership still believes a deal can be made permanent, a good deal, long-term deal can be made with the CCP and that it will keep it. And all of those things that the US is doing with Venezuela and Iran just gives it more leverage to get a better deal. Another interpretation is that the US is doing this dance with the CCP to buy time. Just like China did this dance with the US for so many years to buy time to become stronger and stronger. Now the US is using China's strategies against it, buying time. And why does the US need to buy time? Because basically so much manufacturing is in China, and the US needs to rebuild its industrial base. and we've talked about critical minerals and reshoring or nearshoring or friendshoring all sorts of industries. And at the same time, it may want to dismantle all this proxy network of the CCP so that when they do want to confront China, it will not have that power over the US in terms of manufacturing and also in terms of proxies. So I would say both narratives are viable when analyzing the situation, and we'll just have to see what happens. I think a lot of people who think they understand the nature of the CCP don't believe an enduring deal can be made with them, because they're a little bit like the Iranian clerics. You can't really trust them. You can't change their nature. It's like the story about the frog and the scorpion. When the frog agrees to carry the scorpion over the river, and mid-river it stings the frog, and the frog asks it, why are you doing it? Now we're both drowning, and the scorpion says, it's in my nature. So people who believe that the CCP's nature cannot change hope that it is the second interpretation, that it's a strategy, either deliberate or cumulative decisions of building US industrial base and destroying the CCP's proxies. They hope it's this option and not the first option where American leadership still believes a deal can be made. We'll just have to see what happens, and it may also be fluid. Maybe some people in the administration still believe a deal can be made, and maybe they will change their mind as time goes on, just like with Iran. The US has negotiated with Iran many, many times in this administration. And at some point, Trump and Rubio and President Trump and Secretary Rubio and others said that they just were not reliable partners. They would agree to something and then walk back. The same behavior can be seen in the Chinese regime. So maybe at a certain point, even those in the administration that believe a deal can be made will discover it's not true. So we just have to wait and see. In terms of President Trump's visit to China, we haven't seen any news, and we'll just have to see what happens. I think canceling it or postponing it will send a message, and I'm not sure either side wants to send that message, but we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, so any other information you observed you think is important for our audience to know?
I think at the moment, the American administration and some exiled Iranian figures have called on the Iranian people to take back their country, but also told them not yet, because it's dangerous in the streets, it's dangerous outside. And it kind of brings to mind the fact that Iran has tens of millions of people. It's a big country with a lot of people, and maybe many of them don't like the regime. Maybe many of them don't know anything else. Anybody who was born after 1979 doesn't know anything else. They grew up like that. Just like in China, people born after 1949 grew up under the CCP. They don't know anything else. And all of these people are basically victims of this regime. And whatever comes next, I think it's important to keep in mind all of these people and the hope that, well, we don't know what's going to happen, and suffering is inevitable, but we need to remember that there are millions of people there, of civilians who may like the regime, who may not like the regime, who may like the United States or Israel, or who may hate them, but they are people, and whatever happens now impacts them. And I think it will be important for whoever wants to take charge of Iran to remember that these are the people they're supposed to serve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know that in the United States, many Iranian Americans really celebrate. And some of them even plead to President Trump, send us back to Iran, and they will help liberate the people over there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, maybe not all, but a lot of people who were born in Iran or whose families escaped Iran, whether they're in the United States, Europe, or anything else, they've been waiting for decades for that regime to fall. So obviously they're very happy and they hope for the best. And I guess we should also hope for the best.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much, Moose, for giving us an update and your perspectives again.
Thank you, Cathy, for having me.
Okay. Yeah. So until next time, keep safe.
Thank you so much.